Hey there, everybody, and welcome to our online devotional study that we call Grandfather's Box. I got something for you in my grandfather's box. Make you guess what it is. This is a stone from an ancient city mentioned in the Old Testament. As a matter of fact, you may or may not have even heard of the city, but I'm going to let you kind of figure out the name of it, okay? This city, the name is 2 letters long, and both letters say their name. In other words, it's not that B is but that you would say B. Okay. So the first one is the first letter of the alphabet. Hope you know what that is. Okay. Second one is a single letter people use to refer to themselves. What do you think? It's from the city of Ai. Okay? Ai. Now, you may or may not have heard of Ai. And if you have heard of it, most people don't really know the story behind it, and I don't blame them. It's like a small blurb in the Old Testament. This is it. This is a stone from the ancient city of Ai. It's actually mentioned in the book of Joshua in the Old Testament. Joshua chapter 7, 8, and 9. Okay? And another city you may have heard of that actually is a story right before this is in Joshua chapter 6, and that is the story where the Israelites marched around the walls of Jericho every day, and on the 7th day marched around it 7 times. They never touched the walls. On the 7th day, with the Ark of the Covenant there every day, they blew trumpets and yelled at the top of their lungs, and the walls just came tumbling down. And this just showed the power and the might of God. Scared the daylights out of the people, obviously, would scare anybody, especially because in this time and area, fortified cities had walls that could be upwards of 2, 3, 4, 5 feet thick. And so just walking around it for 7 days, and on the 7th day, walking around that many times, just yelling at some rocks, and they all come tumbling down. And if you know the story, the Israelites rushed in, and they took the city very quickly. Well, what you may not know about this story is that God tells them, look, don't take any plunder. Okay, don't take any of the stuff. The only thing that's supposed to be taken is the gold and silver objects, and they are to be dedicated to the temple of the Lord. They're to be dedicated to the work of God specifically. Don't take anything else. And what ends up happening is Joshua commands them to do this. He relays God's message. Well, not too long after, they end up finding themselves actually at war again with the city of Ai. And what's interesting is because they're just coming off of this moment of success, because they feel like, oh, God's got our back, nothing bad can happen to us. He sends out some people to get a report, and they came back and they're like, oh, don't even bother sending most of the army. Just send a few thousand. We got this, no problem. And so they go, and they get their bottoms kicked. Pretty bad, actually. And when they get back, what ends up happening is everyone in Israel is kind of thrown for a loop. They're concerned. They're scared. As a matter of fact, Joshua starts thinking about this for a minute. And he's like, wait a minute. We just went to war with Jericho. Who's to say the surrounding other nations aren't going to realize that we just got our bottoms kicked pretty easily, and then all these other nations could come and attack us and destroy us? And so he starts freaking out, and he can't figure out why he feels God has abandoned him. And it's interesting because this is what happens right here. This is in Joshua chapter 7, verses 6 to 11 or 12? 12, 6 to 12. Joshua 7, 6 to 12. This is what happens in this space. Joshua said to the elders, Joshua and the elders of Israel tore their clothing in dismay, which is an ancient symbol of grieving. threw dust on their heads, and bowed face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord until evening. Then Joshua cried out, O sovereign Lord, why did you bring us across the Jordan River if you are going to let the Amorites kill us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side. Lord, what can I say now that Israel has fled from its enemies? For when the Canaanites and all the other people living in the land hear about it, they will surround us and wipe our name off the face of the earth. And then what will happen to the honor of your great name? But the Lord said to Joshua, Get up. Why are you lying on your face like this? Israel has sinned and broken my covenant. They have stolen some of the things that I commanded must be set apart for me. And they have not only stolen them, but they have lied about it and hidden the things among their own belongings. This is why the Israelites are running from their enemies in defeat. For now, Israel itself has been set apart for destruction. I will not remain with you any longer unless you destroy the things among you that were set apart for destruction. I think the thing that caught me here is that last phrase, where God says, I will not remain with you any longer unless you destroy the things set apart for destruction. Y'all, I start thinking about that, and I start wondering if we keep things we shouldn't, that God said, no, this is set apart for destruction. Things that are not good to be in our lives. We wonder why God isn't with us. We wonder why we feel distant from him, why things keep working out so badly over and over in the spiritual sense. I'm not talking about luck here, okay? Our God is not a lucky coin. He's not a rabbit's foot. All right, we live in a broken, sinful world. He never told us that he was going to be our genie in a bottle. He said, I'm going to have your back. I'm going to make the good times better and the hard times easier to deal with. You're not alone. But that being said, rather you want to call it some spiritual force, as some Christians have over the generations, where we invite wickedness into our homes, into our very lives. Or it's like promising a spouse that we're not going to smoke anymore and hiding the cigarettes. Do you have anything in your life right now that should be set apart for destruction and isn't? You know, it's interesting, if you read this story, what you find is that somebody actually stole some of those gold and silver items from Jericho that were meant to be for the Lord. But those weren't set apart for destruction, were they? He said everything else was to be. So there is this little story about this guy who stole from God. But then God basically says, look, there's more than even that. People who went into town and they were supposed to just not take anything from Jericho. Some people were sticking stuff in their pockets when they shouldn't have been. That they were stealing from a place that I told them, don't even take a drop of that stuff, that life, that way of life with you. Now, what those things were, we don't know. They could have been golden idols, other gods. That they could have been just nice clothes that the people liked. I don't think the object is the point here. I think the heart of the matter is the matter of the heart. Look, maybe you've already been through this in your mind. And you can honestly say to yourself, no, there's nothing in my home, in my life, in my heart that I'm harboring on purpose, choosing to hide and lie about and keep. Maybe there is. Maybe there's just one more stash of pornography, even if you've forgotten all about it. Maybe there is just one more thing of marijuana that is not medicinal at all. Maybe you told somebody that you got rid of all the guns and there's still a gun in the house. See, I don't have a problem with guns as long as they're used safely and appropriately. The heart of the matter is the matter of the heart. It's the lie. Maybe for you, it's something else. Maybe you keep telling somebody, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do that. And you kind of sneak behind their back and do it. Look, God says, I won't be with you until you destroy the things that were set apart to be destroyed. There's a difference between trying and failing and not trying at all and hiding it. Rather, it's, look, at the end of the day, you're just hurting your relationship with God. You're making your soul weaker. And you're breaking trust, rather it's with somebody else, or rather it's with your own honor. Maybe you have nothing. Maybe you're in a great place spiritually. I'm proud of you if that's the case. But if not, maybe today's the day to make a covenant, to make a statement, to put something in the trash can, whether that's physically or spiritually, to say, I am going to try. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep fighting. By the way, when the Israelites reconciled this situation, they ended up having to go to war again against Ai, and they defeated them. And the very first thing they did afterwards was they went up to Mount Nebo, and they built an altar to the Lord, and they worshiped him. Almost like trying to make peace with God, recognizing that, it's not about all the great blessings that God gives us and that we have a right to them. We don't have a right to the blessings of God, y'all. We are blessed by God with his love. But he also wants us to be at peace and do right ourselves. Will you pray with me? Heavenly Father God, I humbly ask that if there's anything in my life that needs to be destroyed, that is set aside for destruction, and I am choosing to harbor it, will you please bring that to light for me, that I may fight the good fight and run the race and seek to do what's right in your eyes. Forgive me for the times that I've harbored that which I should not. And I pray for the same strength over my brothers and sisters, that we may be even more free from the binds of this world and even closer to your heart, our King. We offer all this in Jesus' holy name. Amen. I love you. Stay safe. God's peace. I'll see you soon.